Elisa Lam arrived in Los Angeles with excitement that lit up her entire being. She had planned the trip as a way to explore new places, escape her routine, and experience the city she had always dreamed of visiting. For Elisa, it was more than just travel. It was a chance to discover herself. She chose to stay at the Cecil Hotel, a building that towered over downtown Los Angeles with a long and unsettling history. Locals whispered about its past, filled with crime, tragedy, and unexplained deaths. To most travelers, it was just another budget hotel, but to those who knew its story, the place carried a heavy, unshakable darkness. Elisa, however, seemed unaware or unconcerned about its reputation. She checked in with a bright smile, her luggage small and simple, and her notebooks tucked safely inside her bag. Writing was her comfort. Her journals held her deepest thoughts and anxieties. During her first days at the hotel, she wandered through the city, visiting bookstores, cafes, and tourist spots. Yet, when she returned at night, something about the hotel unsettled her. The hallways felt colder than they should, the walls seemed to echo with faint whispers, and sometimes she felt the distinct sensation of being watched. Other guests began to notice her too. She would appear distracted, glancing over her shoulder as though expecting someone to be behind her. At times, she looked restless, walking quickly through the lobby without making eye contact. To those who observed her, Elisa seemed like a young woman caught between wonder and unease, as if the city promised her dreams, but the hotel promised her something far more sinister. The most haunting piece of evidence in Elisa Lam's story came from the hotel's surveillance cameras. On a quiet evening, she stepped into one of the elevators, and the recording that followed would later captivate and disturb millions. Elisa appeared nervous from the very beginning. She pressed several buttons at once, as though desperate to escape quickly to any floor. Yet the elevator doors refused to close. It was as if the machine itself was under some strange control, trapping her in a moment of confusion and fear. She pressed herself against the corner of the elevator, peeking out into the hallway, as though expecting someone to appear. At one point, she darted out, then rushed back inside, her body moving with panic, almost like prey hiding from a predator. Her hands began making strange, exaggerated gestures. Her fingers spread wide as if she were pleading or communicating with someone invisible. At times, she looked as though she was speaking, though no sound could be heard. What unsettled viewers most was her shifting expression. Her face flickered between laughter, nervousness, and outright terror. The elevator doors remained open far longer than normal, deepening the mystery. Some believed she was hiding from a real person who was never caught on camera. Others claimed her behavior suggested she was hallucinating, locked in a battle with her own mind. But the longer the video played, the less it seemed to fit any single explanation. The footage became not just a record of her last moments, but an unsolvable puzzle that continues to haunt anyone who watches it. After the unsettling elevator footage, Elisa Lam disappeared completely. She was no longer seen in the hotel's lobby, hallways, or outside the building. Her room remained untouched, with her belongings neatly in place, including her journals and clothes, as if she had planned to return at any moment. The absence of clues made her vanishing even more disturbing. Guests began whispering among themselves, wondering how someone could vanish inside a hotel in the middle of a bustling city. As days passed, the mood inside the Cecil Hotel grew heavy. Travelers reported strange experiences, doors rattling on their own, footsteps echoing in empty corridors, and an eerie silence that seemed to follow them. At the same time, the hotel staff struggled to answer the growing number of questions from concerned guests and Elisa's family, who had been desperately trying to reach her. Every search attempt ended in frustration, with no evidence of where she could have gone. Soon, new complaints surfaced. Guests began to notice problems with the water supply. The pressure was unusually weak, the water looked cloudy, and an unpleasant metallic taste lingered whenever they drank it. Some described the odor as foul and impossible to ignore. Showers ran discolored, and brushing teeth became unbearable. The staff initially brushed it off as a plumbing issue, but behind the scenes, panic was building. It was as though Elisa had vanished into thin air, and the strange state of the hotel's water supply hinted at something far more disturbing waiting to be uncovered. On the morning the maintenance team climbed to the hotel's rooftop, they carried only the expectation of repairing a faulty water system. The rooftop itself was not a place guests could easily access. It required locked doors, alarms, and ladders to reach, making it seem almost impossible for anyone to be there unnoticed. Yet when the workers reached the massive water tanks, a shocking discovery awaited them. Floating just beneath the dark surface of one tank was the lifeless body of Elisa Lam. The sight was horrifying. The water that had sustained the hotel's guests for drinking, bathing, and brushing their teeth now carried the tragic secret of her disappearance. The workers were left shaken, unable to understand how she could have ended up inside. The tanks were heavy and difficult to open, requiring strength and effort to lift the lids. Even more confusing, the rooftop alarms had never sounded, suggesting no forced entry had occurred. When news of the discovery spread, the hotel was thrown into chaos. Guests recoiled in horror upon realizing they had unknowingly consumed the very water in which Elisa had been trapped. Investigators rushed to the scene, carefully documenting every detail. Yet, the questions only multiplied. How had Elisa reached the rooftop undetected? Who opened the tank for her to enter? And how could it have been resealed without drawing attention? The disturbing reality was clear. The circumstances of her death pointed away from accident and toward a chilling and deliberate act shrouded in mystery. The discovery of Elisa Lam's body should have brought closure, but instead it opened a door to deeper confusion. Investigators examined every detail, yet contradictions piled up. The rooftop was secured, the tanks were not easily accessible, and no evidence suggested she had the strength to lift the heavy lid on her own. The elevator footage hinted at her being pursued, but no second figure was ever recorded on camera. The official explanation leaned toward accidental drowning, but the circumstances felt far too unusual for such a simple conclusion. Public reaction was intense. The case spread across news outlets, online forums, and social media, drawing theories from every corner of the world. Some argued she had been the victim of foul play, perhaps by someone with access to restricted parts of the hotel. Others believed she had been struggling with inner turmoil, her behavior in the video a sign of something deeply personal. Yet another group whispered of supernatural involvement, tying her death to the Cecil Hotel's long history of violence, suicides, and sinister legends. What unsettled people most was the lack of clear answers. How did Elisa reach the rooftop without triggering alarms? Why did the elevator act so strangely during her final moments? And why did the official reports seem unable to fully explain the bizarre details? In the end, Elisa's death became more than a tragedy. It became an enduring mystery, a story that blurred the line between crime, accident, and haunting, leaving the world with chilling questions that may never be answered.